There are 13 shotguns in Mass Effect 3 that your squadmates can use, so which one is the best for them? This video is part of my series, where I test the effectiveness of different weapons on your team by measuring how long it took them to complete an Noveria fighter base mission with a specific weapon. I also measured how long it took them to kill the final Atlas. The only teammates who can use shotguns are Tali and James. Tali can get a 20% weapon damage boost through a passive skill, along with a 25% boost from an outfit, for a total of 45 extra weapon damage. James had a 75% weapon damage boost from his passives and an outfit. Since Tali does not have an ammo power of her own, James had to share his incendiary ammo with the rest of us for half the effects. While the explosive burst option that causes 50% of your shots to explode is a far more attractive choice for shotguns, I chose to not spec into it, as it would have given a disproportionately large advantage to the high fire rate shotguns. Incendiary ammo also has the benefit of panicking unshielded targets, making them more vulnerable to follow-up shots, which synergize well with the multi-pellet nature of most shorties. Since shotguns are generally reliant on close range to deal the most damage, I was more proactive with controlling the team by putting them into cover near the enemy and cutting off their escape routes. Every test was done with a level 5 variant of the weapon and used the Shotgun Smart Choke 5 and High Velocity Barrel 5 mods. The ranking and analysis begins now. Dead last on our list is the Geth Plasma Shotgun. As it is another chargeable weapon, it would have never realized its maximum damage potential on your squad, as they are allergic to these kinds of weapons. These uncharged shots, that often take at least 3 hits to kill basic enemies, are fired at a much lower rate than the weapon is capable of, a 3 full seconds between shots. The weapon seems to be bugged in that the muzzle will flash as if it is being fired, but nothing comes out. As if that wasn't bad enough, the shots cannot pierce cover, and since the projectiles are quite large, they will often harmlessly dissipate on nearby objects before they can deal any damage. All these factors combine to make the GPS a very frustrating choice for your team. Beating the Geth Plasma Shotgun by almost 4 minutes is the Venom, a weapon that is less of a shotgun and more of a grenade launcher, but that doesn't make it any better for your team. While the player can charge the shots to deal a simply silly amount of damage, take a wild guess as to how Tali and James use it. The projectiles are small and often require a direct hit to deal damage, as the explosive radius isn't all that great, and since the shots themselves are slow, that is easier said than done. It is once again a 3-shot kill, but since the weapon is fired faster than the GPS, it is overall better, but still not something I would recommend. Wow, what a surprise, another chargeable shotgun on the bottom of the list. I have often seen the Graal suggested for your squad on account of its very tight spread, but that is precisely the reason why it's so low on the list. Near misses, which would deal at least some damage on the traditional shotguns, will do nothing for the Graal. The large spikes cannot pierce cover, and when you combine the low mag size of 3 with your squad's tendency to wait 2 seconds between shots, it just isn't an effective weapon, even at longer ranges. If you are disheartened by how the longer range shotguns have performed thus far, then don't despair. There is something much better for that niche that we're going to cover later on. Moving on to the 10th spot, the Reegar Carbine shotgun is a pretty cursed weapon, and not just because it is neither a carbine or a shotgun. It can best be described as an electric flamethrower whose range is so short that it literally stops doing any damage beyond spitting distance. To make up for that, the potential damage per second of the weapon is absolutely gargantuan. We're talking 5 to 20 times the amount of damage pumped out when compared to literally anything else in the game. With that in mind, I micromanage the team even more than the rest of the shotguns, expecting them to become these little circles of death that delete anything unlucky enough to get in their way. As you can guess from the spot the Reegar is in, it didn't go to plan. Even at point blank range, your idiot squad will somehow manage to miss most of their shots with the torrent of lightning, and they'll still fire the gun well out of range as they are closing in, necessitating more reloads. While it did have the fastest atlas kill time in the class, even with its damage penalties against armor, it still required excessive babysitting on my behalf, and you can achieve similar times with other weapon types without forcing your team to stand right next to an enemy that can insta-kill them. The 9th spot on the list, and the first of the more traditional shotguns, is the Disciple. Its damage, mag size, and fire rate are mediocre at best, with only its accuracy being above average, and as with the Graal, this tight spread will cause near misses to deal no damage. Its claim to fame is the much higher chance to stagger enemies on successful shots, even shielded ones, though I didn't notice it proc very often on the Centurions. As the Disciple otherwise has low weight, it was never really intended to be a pure damage dealing weapon, but a case can be made for giving your squad the increased stagger ability. Plus, seeing the comically muscular James carrying around something that looks like an oversized lipstick dispenser will never stop being funny. Entering the 8th spot is the Eviscerator, another tight spread shotgun that deals more damage than the Disciple. Its rate of fire is a little inconsistent, with your team often firing 2 shots in rapid succession and then waiting several seconds for the 3rd one. Since the Eviscerator only has 3 shots in the clipazine, it creates this awkward period after the first 2 shots where the last one gets delayed for no apparent reason, and then the weapon has to be reloaded. This reduces the potential DPS of the weapon, and if this weren't the case, then it would surely rank higher. Despite the weapon's description and its damage multipliers in Mass Effect 2, the Eviscerator in ME3 deals no additional damage against armor, nor does it pierce cover by default. The 7th spot, the Katana, has always left a bad taste in my mouth. The damage is too low for a one-hit kill, while the rate of fire is not high enough to be an efficient multi-hit weapon. Add to that its poor accuracy and a lack of special gimmicks, and the Katana really combines everything you wouldn't want from a shotgun into one package. With that said, much like the Avenger, it was surprisingly decent on your squad. There is quite a few weapons on the list, where your teammates will automatically pop back into cover after one shot, but the Katana isn't one of them. It also looked like they were much more reactive with the gun, with them opening fire on targeted enemies much faster after being told to. The Katana will serve your team well if you can't be bothered to swap their weapons. While the Graal had the issue of a very tight spread that didn't leave much room for errors, the Piranha has the exact opposite problem. The spread is too big, even with the smart choke. The fights around the landing pad were therefore longer than average, as your enemies could keep a good distance. Conversely, the encounters at the control room were the fastest. The very high fire rate that your squad makes full use of, and the higher than average damage has a chance to really shine here. Don't let the ranking fool you. At close range for sustained damage, nothing beats the Piranha. If you want to try the death radius strategy that I mentioned with the Reegar, then the Piranha is a much better weapon for it, while still having the ability to tickle enemies outside of its effective range. Give it to James, make sure he has max damage reduction fortification, and send him into the loving claws of the enemy. Our 5th spot is a weapon that I expected to be higher, and that is the Wraith. It is one of the 2 weapons on the list that is capable of killing with a single shot, though it doesn't happen too often as the tight spread necessitates most of the pellets to hit. With only 2 shots in the mag and a modest delay between shots, the Wraith isn't quite as spectacular as it is sometimes made out to be. Just 13 seconds shy of the top 3 spot is the Claymore, a weapon that I didn't really think would make it this far. Its single shot nature is an obvious flaw that greatly reduces potential fire rate, especially since your team doesn't reload cancel like skilled players do, but the damage is high enough to score one-hit kills at surprisingly long distances. The high damage also makes it surprisingly effective against the armored atlas, and is second only to the Reegar within the shotgun category. With that said, the Claymore is complete overkill against already injured enemies, and these types of foes will not only cause most of the damage to go to waste, but constitute another lengthy reload. The Scimitar can be compared to the Piranha. Both are described as rapid-fire shotguns that have a capacity of 8. While the Scimitar deals less damage and has a lower rate of fire, it makes up for it with its spread. It isn't too wide like the Piranha, to the point that it does very little outside of close range, nor is it tight enough to cause near misses to go to waste. Therefore, it is very reliable for sustained damage output across all but the longest of ranges. The Scimitar is fired at its max fire cap, and only stops when the enemy is dead or it needs to be reloaded. It is also a weapon that can be obtained very early and completely for free. It is in the same Turian camp that you obtain the Viper from. The second place belongs to a weapon that I seriously thought would grab the first spot, the N7 Crusader. It fires a single high damage slug with great accuracy. This makes it somewhat similar to the bottom 3 longer range shotguns, except the Crusader can pierce cover even without piercing mods, which means that the shots aren't going to be hindered by a few molecules of cover. While the Crusader is typically a 4 to 5 shot kill, it is fired and reloaded very rapidly and isn't reliant on close range to deal most of its damage, making it an excellent choice if you don't like micromanaging your squad. And finally, we have a shotgun that I would have never believed would beat the Crusader, or even make it to top 5 for that matter, and that is the Raider. This is the Mass Effect 3's equivalent to a double-barrel shotgun, capable of firing 2 shots before reloading. This makes it similar to the Wraith, but these shots are fired more rapidly and aren't reliant on precise aim. While I didn't notice it kill basic troopers in one hit, your squad will immediately follow the first shot up with another when necessary, and is a very reliable 2-shot kill at close range. Even at longer ranges, the high spread and solid damage per pellet meant that he could reliably remove 3 or 4 bars of health with a single shot. You can actually compare the Raider quite a bit to the Claymore, as both deal roughly the same amount of damage per reload, but the Raider can deal with already injured enemies more efficiently without wasting time by reloading after every shot. Even though it beat the Crusader, the Raider is only at the top spot because I micromanaged the squad to get the most use out of its pellet spread. If you have a more hands-off playstyle, then the Crusader is far more suited to it, on account of its effectiveness at range. Because your squadmates seem to be hard-coded to miss with their first few shots, it would seem that the shotguns with a higher spread generally have an advantage when it comes to quickly engaging and damaging the target. Therefore, the higher accuracy shotguns, like the Disciple and Eviscerator, might actually be more effective without the smart choke. Despite that, an overly large spread will still cause the weapon to be ineffective at longer ranges, so the choke is still a good choice for something like the Piranha. Thanks for watching.